Okay, let's start the challenge. Hello everyone, hope you are doing great. I'm Nimra Iqbal, an Alpha Level Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. Welcome to the introductory session of the Cloud Skills Challenge, the Cloud Prodigy. Today we are embarking on an exciting journey into the world of cloud computing with Azure. In this challenge, we will explore the fundamentals and cutting-edge technologies in AI, machine learning, and cloud architecture. Let's get ready to elevate your skills and become a true cloud computing expert. Before diving into Microsoft Azure fundamentals, let's talk about one of the fastest growing cloud computing platform in the market right now. Yes, I'm talking about Microsoft Azure. So for basic information, at first we will be talking about why you should be interested in cloud computing, what exactly is cloud computing, what's the Microsoft Azure, its services, and the uses of Microsoft Azure. Now let's start why you should be interested in cloud computing. Now let's say you have an idea for an amazing application, an idea that ticks both the boxes when it comes to good applications. One, it has a great user experience, and two, it will be highly profitable. Now for it to be successful, you will release it on internet, people need to use it, they need to spread the word, and then it will become of course famous. However, for that you are going to need, of course, आपको servers चाहिए होंगे, storage चाहिए होगी, developers चाहिए होंगे, एक dedicated network चाहिए होगा, and of course, application security to ensure that your application works the way it does. Now, these are a lot of components, and that's why the major problem lies that there are two major disadvantages to this approach. The initial setup is very expensive and risky, which means that this requires a huge amount of capital upfront to ensure that it works properly or not. And if your application does not just become famous or it does not return as much as you expect it to, you are probably not going to get the money back, which means it provides a huge amount of risk. And if on the other side, if it does become famous, your numbers of users have increased, which means that you will have to buy more servers and storage systems to keep up with your demand. And this problem, you know what? That this problem can be solved with the help of cloud computing. Now that you know why you should be interested in cloud computing, let's go into the details of what exactly is cloud computing. Now, cloud computing is basically a platform that gives you access to a number of computing resources, and this is possible with the help of the internet. Now, as a user, all you need to do is to go to a cloud service provider through your laptop or your computer, through the internet, of course, connect to that cloud service provider, and then there you go. You have access to the computing resources. Now, computing resources may include, serverless computing, virtual machine storage, and so much more. Now, let's dig a little deeper. Now, basically, these cloud service providers actually have massive data centers. Now, now, in these data centers, what you have are hundreds of servers, or also included are storage systems, and mainly several organizations' critical components. So, these are very secure, safe locations where a large amount of data is stored. Hence, that's why it is named as data centers, of course. Now, it is to these data centers that users actually connect to collect their data or use it. Actually, users can access any service based on their requirement. Now, like I told you, there is a huge number of services that user can use. For example, now if you want a notification every time someone sends you a message, or perhaps once you get an email you need of it, create it now for all of this. There are services, and most importantly, almost every cloud service provider has this option where users pay only for the services that they use. So there is no charge up front where they can tell you that you need to pay X amount of money so that you can use our services. You're only paying for the amount of time that you are using these services. Now, cloud computing is used for a wide variety of reasons. First, there is the machine learning, and secondly, the data analysis. Now, basically, they are services that analyze your data and tells you how you can work with this data better. But then there is data storage and backup streaming. media content. For example, did you know that the shows that you watch on Netflix or YouTube, actually all of them are in the cloud. So you are connected to the internet and you browse and you get access to all the videos in, for example, in YouTube or Netflix and whatever. These are possible with the help of cloud service providers. This creating and testing applications, automating software delivery, which is a component in DevOps, and hosting blogs and applications. Now, for further information, let's watch a video together. So, if you weren't able to hear it out, these are the captions. You can check them out. Okay, so now let's talk about Microsoft Azure. So, now what is Azure? What's the big cloud service provider all about? So, Azure is a cloud computing platform provided by Microsoft. Now, it's basically an online portal through which you can access and manage resources and services. Now, resources and services are nothing, but you can store your data and you can transform the data using services that Microsoft provides. Again, all you need is the internet and being able to connect to the Azure portal, then you get access to all of the resources and their services. Now let me tell you about some things that you need to know about Azure. First of all, Azure was launched in February 2010, which was much earlier. Secondly, Azure is free to start and has pay-per-use model, which means like I said before, you need to pay for the services you use through Azure, and one of the most important selling point is that 80% of Fortune 500 companies use Azure services, which means that most of the bigger companies of the world actually recommend using Azure. And then, which means that most of the bigger companies of the world actually recommend using Azure. And then Azure supports a wide variety of programming languages, the C Sharp, the Node.js, and JavaScript, and much more. Another very important selling point of Azure is the amount of data centers it has across the world. Now, it's important for a cloud service provider to have many data centers around the world because it means that they can provide their services to a wider audience. Now, Azure has 42, which is more than any cloud service provider has at the moment right now. It expects to have 12 more in a period of time, which brings its total number of regions it covers to 54. Okay, now let's talk about Azure services. Now, Azure services have 18 categories and more than 200 services. So we clearly can't go through all of them, of course. It has services that cover compute and machine learning integration, management tools identity, DevOps, web, and so much more. You're going to have a hard time trying to find a domain that Azure does not cover. And if it doesn't cover it now, you can be certain that they are working on it as we speak. So first, let's start with the compute servicing services first. First of all, virtual machine. With this service, what you are getting to do is to create a virtual machine of Linux, of course. आप Linux की machine create कर सकते हैं or Windows operating system. It's easily configurable. You can add RAM, you can decrease RAM, of course. You can add storage, remove it. All of it is possible in a matter of seconds. Now let's talk about cloud service. Now with this, you can create an application within the cloud and all of the work after you deploy it, deploying the application that is taken care of by Azure, which includes, preparing the application, load balancing, ensuring that the application is in good health and all of the other things are handled by Azure. And next up, let's talk about Service Fabric. Now, with Service Fabric, the process of developing a microservice is greatly simplified. So, you might be wondering what exactly a microservice? Now, a microservice is basically an application that consists of smaller applications coupled together. Next up, functions. Now, with functions, you can create an application in any programming language that you want. Another very important part is that you don't have to worry about any hardware or components. You don't have to worry about what RAM you require and how much storage you require. All of that is taken care by Azure. All you need to is to provide the code to Azure, and it will execute it, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Now let's talk about some networking services. First up, we have Azure CDN or the Content Delivery Network. Now, the Azure CDN service is basically for delivering web content to users. Now, this content is of high bandwidth and can be transferred or can be delivered to any person across the world. Now, these are actually a network of servers that are placed in strategic positions across the world so that the customers can obtain this data as fast as possible. Next up, we have Express Route. Now with this, you can actually connect your on-premise network onto the Microsoft Cloud or any of the services that you want through a private connection. So the only communication that happens is between your on-premise network and the service that you want. Then you have virtual networks. Now with virtual network, you can have any of the Azure services communicate with each other in a secure manner and in a private manner. Next, we have Azure DNS. So Azure DNS is a hosting service which allows you to host their DNS or domain name system domains in Azure. So you can host your applications using Azure DNS. Now for storage services, first up we have disk storage. With disk storage, you are given a cost-effective option of choosing HDD or solid state drives to go along with your virtual machines based on your requirements. Then you have blob storage. Now, this is actually optimized to ensure that they can store massive amounts of unstructured data, which can include text data or even you can store binary data. And then next you have file storage. which is a managed file storage and can be accessible via the SMB protocol or the server message block protocol. And now at the end, finally the queue storage. Now with queue storage, you can provide durable message queuing for an extremely large workload, and the most important part is that this can be accessed from anywhere in the world. Okay. Now let's talk about how Azure can be used firstly for application development. It could be any application, mostly web applications. Then you can test the applications to see how well it works, how can you host the applications on the internet. You can create virtual machines like I mentioned before with you. With the service, you can create these virtual machines or of any size or any RAM that you want. You can integrate in sync features. You can collect and store matrices. For example, how the data works, how the current data is, how you can improve upon it. All of that is possible with these services. And you have virtual hard drives, which is an extension of the virtual machine, where these services are able to provide you a large amount of storage where data can be stored. Now let's talk about what are cloud models. The cloud models define the deployment type of cloud resources. The three main cloud models are private, public, and hybrid. So firstly, let's dive into the private cloud. The private cloud is the natural evolution from a corporate data center. It's a cloud that is used by a single entity. Private cloud provides much greater control for the company and its IT department. However, it also comes with greater cost and fewer of the benefits of the public cloud deployment. Finally, a private cloud may be hosted from your own site data center. It may also be hosted in a dedicated data center offsite, potentially even by a third party that has dedicated the data center to your company. Secondly, let's talk about public net cloud. The public cloud is built, controlled, and maintained by a third party cloud provider. With public cloud, anyone that wants to purchase cloud services can access and use resources. The general public availability is a key difference between public and private clouds. Now, finally, let's talk about hybrid cloud. A hybrid cloud is a computing environment that uses both public and private clouds in an interconnected environment. A hybrid cloud environment can be used to allow a private cloud to search for increased temporary demand by deploying public cloud resources. Hybrid cloud can be used to provide an extra layer of security. For example, users can flexibly choose which services to keep in public cloud and which to deploy to their public cloud infrastructure. So, as we have completed the basics of cloud computing and Microsoft Azure, now you guys are absolutely ready to begin the Ambassador Challenge of Cloud Prodigy. Before the guidelines of how to attempt the challenge, let's talk about what is Azure Fundamentals. Azure Fundamentals is a foundation level certification offered by Microsoft that validates basic knowledge of cloud concepts and Azure services. It covers core Azure services, Azure pricing and support, and the basics of cloud security, privacy, compliance, and trust. Azure Fundamentals is a series of three learning pathways that familiarize you with Azure and its many services and features. Azure fundamentals include interactive exercises that give you hands-on experience with Azure. The technical IT experience is not required. However, having general IT knowledge will help you get the most from your learning experience. Okay, now let's dive into the idea that why you should take Azure fundamentals. Okay. If you're just beginning to work with cloud or if you already have cloud experience, Azure fundamentals provide you with everything you need to get started. The Azure Fundamentals Learning Path series can help you prepare for exam AZ900, Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. This exam includes three knowledge domain areas. The first one is the description of cloud concepts, has a weightage of 25 to 30%, and you can see the description of Azure tech architecture and services has a weightage of 35 to 40%, and the description of Azure management and governance has a weightage of 30 to 35%. Each domain area maps to a learning path in Azure fundamentals. The higher the shown percentage, the more questions that part of exam will contain. So be sure to read the exam page for specifics about what skills are covered in each area. This challenge will absolutely help you in develop a broad understanding of Azure. Now, after completing the challenge, the participants will get a lot of premium e-certificates that will be officially verified by Microsoft, and they are going to be helpful for you in applying for the jobs, for your resumes, of course, internships वगैरह के लिए और entry level jobs वगैरह के लिए. They are so good, uh, and they are actually verified, officially verified by Microsoft. Now let's talk about the guidelines of the challenge and that how you're going to attempt it. Hmm. Okay, let's open a Microsoft Learn page. You can search it by, although you can follow me with this. अच्छा, सबसे पहले हमने Microsoft Learn का एक पेज निकाल लेना है जो कि आपको दिख रहा होगा. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई एम ऑफ कोर्स साइन इन. इसमें अपने स्टूडेंट एम्बेसडर आईडी से साइन इन हो. अगर आपको कोई प्राइवेट लाइक अपना कोई भी ऑफिशियल या कोई भी अपना प्राइवेट अकाउंट है, आप उससे भी इसमें लॉग इन कर सकते हैं. बेसिकली इसका बताने का मकसद ये है ताकि आप लोगों को जो भी हमारे पास जो चैलेंज है उसको आप अच्छे से परफॉर्म कर सकें. तो यहाँ पे आप ऑल जो ब्राउज ऑल द ट्रेनिंग्स which are provided by the Microsoft Learn. So first of all, we have modules. Modules are basically each courses like fundamentals of responsible का एक course है, describe cloud service types का. अगर इन courses में different units होते हैं और maybe ये 15 minutes का होगा, 12 minutes का होगा, and after completing each module you receive an certificate, an e-certificate that is officially verified by Microsoft. तो आप each module cover करने के बाद you can get that. And let me tell you about learning path. तो learning path जो होता है is a set of modules. Like learning path में different sets होते हैं of modules. मतलब अगर मैं इसको खोलूंगी तो there are different modules in that. तो अगर आप इन learning paths को cover करेंगे तो along with that आप different modules भी cover कर रहे होंगे. So आपको एक learning path cover करने में different, आप for example इस learning path में अगर हमारे पास 10 modules हैं तो आपको 10 certificates मिलेंगे. Then we have, okay, now let's talk about the challenge. चैलेंज आपको ऑफ कोर्स लिंक्डइन में और हमने जो आपको व्हाट्सएप के चैनल्स में एक मैसेज सेंड किया था उसके along there will be a challenge link, so you can have that, you can access this challenge with that. So basically in this challenge there is an ambassador challenge cloud prodigy. जो मैंने चीज़ें आपको पहले बताई हैं इस पूरे मीटिंग में, they are basically a prerequisite for it, an introductory session for it. So after joining this challenge, you are gonna come in this page which has different modules. Now the first module we have, after completing all of these modules, you're gonna get a lot of certificates, of course, क्योंकि इसमें 11 modules हैं, so you're gonna get 11 certificates officially verified by Microsoft. So just good luck for that. Let's discuss about modules, each module. The first one is describe cloud computing, जो मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया है. और इसमें सब हमारे पास डिफरेंट यूनिट्स होते हैं. हमारे पास ईच मॉड्यूल में डिफरेंट क्लाउड 8 यूनिट्स होते हैं. डिफरेंट नंबर ऑफ यूनिट्स हो सकते हैं. इसमें हमारे पास 8 है. फॉर एग्जांपल फर्स्ट वन है हमारे पास माइक्रोसॉफ्ट एज्योर फंडामेंटल्स. देन हमारे पास इंट्रोडक्शन टू क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग है, क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग, देन क्लाउड मॉडल्स वगैरह जो कि हम लोग शेयर कर चुके हैं. देन हमारे पास है सेकेंड वन इज describe the benefits of using cloud services. इसमें हमारे पास इंट्रोडक्शन आ जाता है benefits of high availability and scalability in the cloud. They describe the benefits of reliability and predictability in the cloud, benefits of security and governance in the cloud, of course, benefits of manageability in the cloud, knowledge check. Knowledge check is basically an exercise. जो अभी मैंने like सारे आपको explain किया है with everything, with every detail. So after learning these challenge, after learning these modules, you will be capable to do this exercise successfully. So after that, we have described cloud service types. We have types in that and 6 units. So first of all, there is introduction, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and again knowledge check and summary. Then we have the description of core architecture components of Azure. There are 9 units for it. First of all, there is an introduction, Microsoft Azure, which we have already discussed. The Azure accounts, explore the learn and sandbox, describe the Azure physical infrastructure, Azure management infrastructure, create an Azure resource, knowledge check, of course. Then again, we have describe Azure compute and networking services. Okay, first of all, we have introduction. We have Azure virtual machines, create an Azure. You have to cover all of these modules, all of these are units to, to complete this module and gain the certificate. And after that, we have describe Azure storage services. So we have Azure storage services that we have discussed, Azure storage accounts, Azure storage redundancy, Azure storage services, create a storage blob that we have discussed in the services, or of course at the end knowledge check and summary. And after that, of course we have it described Azure identity, access, and security. In this module, we have 11 units. First of all, introduction hai, then Azure directory services, Azure authentication methods, Azure external identities, Azure conditional access, and so on. And again, knowledge check and summary. By आपके जो knowledge check का जो भी वो होगा, स्कोर होगा, वो जाएगा in the leaderboard. अगर आपको जितना आपका अच्छा होगा स्कोर वगैरह, उतने ही आप top of the line होंगे. Okay, then again, we have describe cost management in Azure. Let's talk about that. It has 9 units. और इसमें हमारे पास again introduction आ जाता है, factors that can affect cost in Azure, the comparing the price of and total cost of ownership calculators, estimate workload cost by using the pricing calculator, compare workload cost using the TCO calculator, describe the Microsoft cost management tool, describe the purpose of tags, knowledge check again, and then summary. And after that, we have describe features and tools for managing and deploying Azure resources. And then it has again 6 units. और इसमें हमारे पास आ जाएगा tools for interacting with Azure, the purpose of Azure AI, Arc, Azure Resources Manager, and Azure ARM templates, and knowledge check again. Then again we have describing the last module is describing monitoring tools in Azure. It has 6 units. And then again, it has introduction, the purpose of Azure Advisor, the description of Azure Service Health, and then description of Azure Monitor, then knowledge check, and again summary. After completing all of these modules, आपको certificates आपके मिल जाएंगे. So best of luck with that, and let me tell you something. Okay. So I have shared the guidelines of this challenge already. So best of luck with that. And the link is also available along with the link for the meeting that you have joined. So you can access that from there too. So hope you have liked the session. Inshallah, we will meet soon again. Best of luck for the challenge. You might leave. Thank you so much.